The Galactic Council had made their decision with unanimous approval. Humanity would be exiled to the Chasm, a region of space where physics bent in impossible ways, where ships vanished without trace, and where madness itself seemed to leak from the fabric of reality. It was a death sentence disguised as mercy. Ambassador Thexler of the Valorian Empire delivered the verdict with what passed for sympathy among his kind. His crystalline voice resonated through the grand hall as Earth's representatives stood in chains of energy. Your species is too dangerous, too unpredictable. You wage war upon yourselves, yet somehow survive. You create beauty, then destroy it. You are a paradox that threatens the order we have maintained for 10,000 cycles. Commander Sarah Chen said nothing. Her jaw was set, her eyes cold. Around her, the other human prisoners, soldiers, scientists, engineers, stood silent. They had been labeled as representatives of their entire species, though they were merely the crew of humanity's first deep space exploration vessel. The Chasm will be your new home, Thexlar continued. If you somehow survive, perhaps the universe will have a place for you after all. But we calculate the probability of your survival at 0.003%. Those are rookie numbers, Chen muttered. 3 months later, the transport ships dumped 40,000 humans at the edge of the Chasm. Not just the original prisoners, but families, volunteers, and those who refused to let their people face extinction alone. The Council had been surprised but permitted it. More humans to disappear meant fewer problems. The Chasm swallowed them whole. Inside, reality was broken. Time moved in spirals. Space folded upon itself like origami made by a drunken god. The first week cost them 3,000 lives. Ships imploded. People aged decades in seconds. Some went mad from visions of impossible geometries. But humans had survived ice ages with stone tools. They had crossed oceans in wooden boats. They had split atoms and walked on moons. The Chasm was just another ocean, another atom, another frontier. Dr. James Morrison, the expedition's chief physicist, worked 72 hours straight until his team cracked the pattern. It's not random, he announced, eyes bloodshot but gleaming. It's a language. The Chasm is trying to communicate. They learned to listen. They learned to speak back. Within 6 months, human ships moved through the Chasm like dancers predicting the rifts, riding the temporal waves. They built stations anchored in stable pockets of spacetime. They mined exotic matter that existed in quantum superposition. They discovered that the Chasm wasn't empty. It was inhabited by entities that existed between dimensions, beings of pure mathematics that had been trying to reach out for eons. Humanity made friends in the dark. 2 years after their exile, the first human ship emerged from the Chasm near Council space. Then another. Then a fleet. The Council convened an emergency session. Thexlar's crystalline form flickered with what might have been fear as he watched the displays. Human vessels moved with impossible grace, their hulls built from materials that shouldn't exist. They phased through solid matter. They communicated faster than light without using any known technology. Commander Chen, now Admiral Chen, transmitted her message across all Council frequencies. You sent us to die in the Chasm. You thought the abyss would consume us. Her voice was calm, almost friendly. But here's what you didn't understand about humanity. We've been staring into abysses since we lived in caves. Abysses don't scare us. We jump in, we swim to the bottom, and we come back up with souvenirs. Behind her ship, something emerged from a rift, one of the Chasm entities, now willingly serving as an ally. It was beautiful and terrible, a fractal nightmare of living geometry that made sensors scream. We didn't come back for revenge, Chen continued. We came back to offer you a choice. The Chasm is a gateway to something beyond this universe. There are threats coming, things that make your worst nightmares look like children's stories. We've seen them. We've touched the edge of what's waiting out there in the dark between dimensions. She paused, letting that sink in. You can keep your precious order, your 10,000 cycles of stagnation, and face what's coming alone, or you can learn to do what humanity does best. Adapt, survive, and thrive in places where we shouldn't exist. Thexler found his voice, though it cracked like breaking crystal. What are you proposing? Partnership. We'll teach you what we learned. We'll show you how to survive in the impossible spaces. But the age of humans being the junior species is over. We're not asking for a seat at your table anymore. Admiral Chen smiled, and it wasn't entirely kind. We're building a bigger table. The vote was not unanimous this time, but it passed. 50 years later, the Galactic Council, now the Galactic Alliance, had stations throughout the chasm. Trade routes ran through dimensional shortcuts that only human-trained navigators could safely traverse. The threats that Chen had warned about did come, horrors from outside reality itself, but the Alliance met them with human ingenuity backed by alien resources. In the Council chambers, now rebuilt to accommodate beings from both standard space and the chasm itself, there was a memorial. It listed the names of the 3,000 who died in those first weeks. At its base, a simple inscription in a dozen languages. They sent us into the abyss. We made it our home, and when we returned, we brought the impossible with us. This is humanity's gift. We do not fear the dark. We make it fear us. Ambassador Chen, retired now, her hair silver, her eyes still sharp, sometimes stood before that memorial. Young humans and aliens alike would ask her what it had been like, those first terrifying days in the chasm. She always gave them the same answer. Terrifying, deadly, impossible. Then she'd smile. So basically a Tuesday for humanity. The abyss had not consumed them. They had consumed the abyss, digested it, and made it part of their strength. Because that was what humans did. They took every attempt to destroy them and forged it into armor. The Council had meant to end humanity's story in the chasm. Instead, humanity had just begun writing their next chapter.